you've gone through in the last few years and what's going on with iEmpire now, have you sort of developed a personal mantra for yourself, sort of something that describes where you're at in your life at this point?
Yeah, I think it's just accepting people for who they are, and just letting people be. We don't have to get along, we don't even have to be friends, I mean, maybe we will, but I think one of the important things for me is just, letting people be who they are and letting people contribute in their own little ways. And I think when you can be kind of a strong-headed musician or artist or anything in general, it's really easy to say that, your way's the right way and you kind of judge other people's decision-making. But, I think if you just accept people for who they are and be willing to, accept help and pass the ball off at the end of the game sometimes, let somebody else hit the game winner. I think that's an important lesson.
Well, that's a nice segue because before we get out of here, I want to talk about a few fun things. It seems to me like you're a sports fan. I know you worked in the front office for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I think you're also a big baseball fan. Am I right?
Huge baseball fan. I mean, that's my number one, no doubt.
And are the Rays your team since you're from that area, or?
No, I grew up in Texas. So I grew up watching, Nolan Ryan and Oda B. McDowell and Steve Buechele and Pete Incaviglia and Ruben Sierra and Julio Franco and, all the older school, Rangers. But, early on making the first Submerged record, we had a pretty interesting group, with Mark Tremonti and, all these different, people that he would introduce us to. And one of our good friends, Dale Torbor, whose dad used to play for the Royals with George Brett and everybody back in the day, and he actually played and was the physical therapist for the Marlins back when my friend Kevin Millar, who played with the Red Sox at the time, and they got to know each other, and usually the Red Sox and Rays kind of play that last week of the season every year, and I think it was 2003, they were winding down the season, and Dale was headed over here to meet up with Kevin, and he knew I was, a big fan of baseball, and he obviously had a new record coming up, and he's like, why don't you come on out with me, let me introduce you to some of the guys, and, maybe they can get to know you, and, you can kind of have your own in, and that's what I did. We all hit it off, and we've been friends ever since, and so, I mean, obviously when you become friends with, guys like the Red Sox, and then the next year they go on to win the World Series and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you tend to become a fan, of that team,
right.
And so I definitely became a Red Sox fan at that point. But from that point, Kevin, moved on from Boston, and I was just a fan of baseball. Wherever my friends were playing, that was the colors I was wearing, whether it be Baltimore or Toronto or Chicago Cubs. It was it's I don't know. It's just something magical about that game. I can use a metaphor from baseball, about any lesson in life I'm trying to convey, and it's just a true respected sport.
And do you delve into the geek side of it, doing fantasy baseball?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have my draft at 3 p.m. today, so as soon as we get off here today, I'll be probably grabbing a little bite to eat and get ready for my draft, get my team set.
And so do you have a when you go into it, your own sort of formula? Are you going pitcher heavy to start, or are you going for the scarcity position?
Yeah, everybody has their strategies. I'm just really, my strategy is just kind of being in touch with where players are at, not just in their career, but, I'm a contract year type of guy. I guess,
right.
I guess my main strategy would be, find those guys that are trying to make some money this year, so usually they're the ones that will come out and perform pretty solid the whole season, but no, it's just what I like about it. It's not really the actual, fantasy aspect of it. It's just a great way. It makes the all-around season more entertaining. Before I did only watch my one team, and now it's like I have when you have fantasy, you have players on different teams, so it really kind of makes watching the whole season go down a little more enjoyable.
Exactly. Well, when I'm not doing this, I'm also the senior staff writer for FantasyKnuckleheads.com.
Okay, all right, nice.
So give us one of your sleepers and one of your busts for this year, then.
One of my sleepers, I tell you, I don't think he's going to be a sleeper, but I love Buster Posey, out there for San Francisco. Just the way he carries himself, his ability to be able to get to the World Series his rookie year, I think is really going to benefit the whole ball club, just because, he when you can find a good, talented hitting and smart catcher like that, you know, they can really dictate your pitching staff for years and years to come. You know, really help those young pitchers work through ball games. But you know, he's really kind of my guy that I think will probably slip down the list, but is a big time player. And obviously when you put Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez in Boston, you know, not just being a Boston fan, but we just kind of look at how they match up in that ballpark. I think they're going to have monster years. I don't think that's taken anybody by surprise, but I think it's kind of hard not to mention it as well.
Right. And who do you think is going to bust, be totally overrated this year?
Bust? Oh, man, I tell you what, I'll be honest. I've been dealing with such whirlwinds, and I need to do my homework a little bit. You know, I think it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, the Cardinals handle this year with, you know, Wainwright going down. And, you know, Carpenter's always kind of, you know, when he's on, he's just unstoppable, but he's not as durable as some of these guys, some of these left-handers. But, you know, I think the Cardinals are going to have a tough time this year, you know, with the Brewers picking up some really good pitching, and they still have a potent lineup. So, you know, I think the Rangers might struggle a little bit, but I don't know. I don't really. I think it's pretty. The last couple of seasons have pretty kind of locked those front runners in, you know, around the league. You know, it's been probably since the Rays that we've kind of had a surprise come through. But yeah, I definitely expect a pretty rough year for the Cardinals.
Well, and how do you think your own boy Jeremy Hellickson's going to do there for the Rays this year?
He did great last year. He just has a great demeanor about him. You know, it reminds me a lot of David Price when he came up the first year. You know, he had a lot of success. Or that first year they called him in the playoffs, he had a lot of success. And then that first year in the big leagues, you know, he had a problem with walking batters. And that's what he really improved on, you know, going into last year. But I think if he can keep, you know, hitters up, you know, runners off the base paths, I think he'll be fine. You know, and that's the big thing playing in the American League, you know, East is, you know, they're very patient hitters. You know, they know how to get men on and how to manufacture runs, and I think if he can keep runners off the path, and then the big ball won't hurt him.
Well, I know you've got to get out of here, get ready for your draft. So before we go, tell us real quickly about I Got Jets.
I Got Jets. Oh man, it's getting around, isn't it? You know, this going back to that lockup, you know, in January. You know, sometimes you can just get cabin fever, and you may run out of some Cap Morgan or, you know, whatever else is on hand. And me and Brad were just kind of sitting there bored one night, and we're always talking rubbish, you know, just kind of coming up with stupid things to talk about. And, you know, we were sitting there watching one of those, you know, millionaire yacht shows or whatever, and, you know, it came up to a Learjet, you know, how these smug rich folks are, you know, like, yeah, I got my jet, you know, and so we were laughing. We were like, well, what if you had jets like F-16s, you know, stealth fighters? Like, you know, I don't just have jets. I have my own squadron, you know. And so we just thought it would be funny to kind of do like a parody rap song about, you know, we don't just have jets. We have like Top Gun jets, you know, Tomcats and F-16s. And so we actually recorded a track called I Got Jets, and basically Brad's the flow master, and I'm kind of his Nate Dogg, you know, to his Warren G. So I sing the hooks when it comes to the chorus, and he kind of lays the flows down in the verses, and I kind of hype them up. And we have some funny ideas for it, and hopefully if we can ever get the time, you know, and then really lock in on it, we may do some, you know, lazy Sunday type of viral stuff, you know, and have some fun with it. Try to have some fun with it.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on the site for that. So last question before we get out of here. What are you listening to these days? What's sort of got your ears up?
What am I listening to? Man, you know, let me see. Let me try to figure out how I answer this question. I'm pretty expansive at the moment, and I'm not really heavy. You know, I really like the Paper Tongues, which I just think they're definitely not metal, but, you know, his lyrical content is incredible. The melodies are exactly what I like to sing. It's just not over metal. But, you know, them, I really like Sick Puppies. And then I have, you know, all my old school go-tos, you know, Pantera's and Lamb of God. So,
right.
In Flames. You know, I mean, I'm not, it's really hard for me to kind of get on something new. And usually if it is, it's just something that's kind of out of my realm. You know, it's nothing, it's kind of hard in the metal scene now to kind of, you know, come up with something new. But yeah, creatively, I think there's pretty talented bands out there.
Yeah, it's nice to see music finally making rock music anyway, making a resurgence after the near death in the '90s. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and there's this, you know, there's a transition just technologically within the industry, but, you know, creatively as well. You know, I mean, some of what we were trying to do, and, you know, even on Feels Like I'm Falling, was, you know, infuse some of that hip hop influence in there, which is just so big in music nowadays, you know, and hip hop is starting to, you know, kind of delve into, you know, the country world and all these other different kind of worlds, and you know, so it's, you know, that's kind of why I like those bands like Paper Tongues, you know, and they're really kind of infusing a lot of different styles. You know, they almost have like a soul, R&B, hip-hop, rock type of thing going. So that's really kind of what I'm into now is, you know, who's blurring the lines and who's kind of trying to do things that may seem a little uncomfortable at first, but, you know, once your brain kind of wakes up to it, it's just something fresh.
Awesome. DC, thanks so much for taking the time. And I'll leave you with one last fantasy baseball question since you're off to your draft. We all know Carl Crawford's a first-round pick this year in all drafts. You think Adrian Gonzalez is worthy of a first-round pick this year?
I think he is, absolutely. You know, he's played his entire career in a pitcher's ballpark. They actually just saw last night that they're going to bring in the right field fence in 10 feet to put in new chairs in Fenway next year. The guy can hit to the opposite field, for God's sake. So, I mean, the way I'm looking at Adrian's, you know, season going is he's either going to walk, he's either going to hit a home run to right field, or he's going to put him off the green monster, you know, and he's going to probably lead the league in home runs, doubles, and I would say on base percentage, you know, with the amount of walks that he's probably going to draw. So, I mean, you put a guy like Carl Crawford, you know, leading off, you know, probably 70% of the time, maybe he's going to try to find a way to get on, and when you have somebody like Adrian Gonzalez batting cleanup, it's going to get pretty nasty on the RBI side of things, so I may pick him first.
There you go. Have a great draft. We'll have to talk later, and you'll have to tell me how your draft went. But have a good one. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk with you soon.